world, and welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. It's time for November, and I'm feeling really good today because it's Halloween, which means it's still October, and I'm recording this voiceover. So I'm going to consider that a win and give myself a pat on the back, and let's get into my setup for November. I chose a West Wing theme because I'm a big nerd. I have two reasons. One of them is much bigger and more significant, so we're going to go with the other one first, which is I am an American, I'm in the United States, and in the US, November is when our elections are held, which is something that's very important to me. I'm a very firm believer in get out the vote. Please vote. I don't care what your politics are. Please just vote. If you don't vote, you really don't have a right to complain about anything. So please vote if you can. And the other reason is that November is my birthday month, and The West Wing is my favorite television show of all time. Well, favorite live-action American television show of all time. So that was what I picked. Yep, that's my reasoning. Also, The West Wing gives me a lot of November vibes. Like, aside from the fact that it has a couple of Thanksgiving-themed episodes, it also just, like, the color palette and the mood really feels like November to me. So, I don't know, it felt like the right decision, and it's my bullet journal, so that's what counts, right? Going with the same full calendar layout just with the last couple of months, it's been going pretty well for me. I'm still surprised that it's working, but I'm liking it so far. I'm going to change it up eventually. I don't know when that will be. We'll find out together. And I arranged this spread to look kind of like a desktop, not a digital one, like a physical desktop. So the calendar is laid out kind of like a newspaper with some very classic Times New Roman typography for November, and I put a couple of like headlines, or there's a headline and then there's a quote built in, and that was what I was going for with this setup. Now, I was a little nervous about it, and I'm still a little nervous to use it because I've done something that is one of those like hugely insignificant but ever-present pet peeves in like bullet journaling, which is to carry the calendar directly across the spine. I don't know if I can articulate this intelligently. It's just something that bothers me. I have never done it. When I see other people do it, it's like this little twitch in the back of my brain. Like, you do you. Your bullet journal should work for you, not me. But, like, it always bothers me, you know? So I didn't, as you can see, I didn't carry like a single day or a single column across the spine. There's a line where the spine break is, but it's still running up to the very edge of the page in the middle, and I'm really nervous about it. It's kind of causing me this low-grade, like, back-of-the-mind anxiety, and I don't really know how it's gonna turn out. I didn't think that I was gonna talk about it that much, though, so that's fun. Yeah, moving on. Like I said, The West Wing is a very beloved show of mine. I watched it when it aired when I was a kid, and I have watched it repeatedly since then. I literally do not know how many times I have watched this show. It is more than 5. It is probably approaching 10 at this point, and certain episodes I have seen 20 times, probably more. I really, really like it. Totally accepting and upfront that it has a lot of problems. And Aaron Sorkin, for all of my deep love for him, is kind of a garbage can of a human being. Like, I love the things that he writes, but he's also horrendous, and I don't think I would ever want to meet him, and my sympathies to his ex-wife and his daughter. But yeah, The West Wing as a show, for all of its problems, like, even its problems are endearing to me. That's the kind of comfort level we're talking about with this show. It's just one of those things that it's so deeply ingrained in who I am, and I love it so much, even though some of it is really problematic. Yeah. So what I've got up at the top, like I said, I did like a headline, Bartlett for America, and then underneath it says by Danny Kincannon, who is a character from the show. And then at the bottom is a quote from the first episode, the pilot episode, that is, the president, while riding his bicycle on vacation in Jackson Hole, came to a sudden arboreal stop. And then, quote, credited to Leo McGarry, the chief of staff. It was a joke on the show in the pilot episode. For anyone who hasn't seen, the president rode his bicycle into a tree, and this gets brought up several times and is actually a plot point. But that was a joke that Leo said to the press secretary, like, what, I can't make this sound better. The president rode his bike into a tree. What do you want from me? Yep, and now you're beginning to understand my humor and where it came from. On the right side, all the way over here, we've got my regular setup for my goals. And in keeping with the desktop theme, I drew a little pager, classic 90s pager, on a scrap piece of dot grid paper. And then I've got a little cutout from a legal pad that I'm gonna write my goals on. I've only got a couple things down right now, and I'm gonna figure out what the rest of my goals are gonna be for the month. And I've also got, oh, that was out of order. Whoops. Okay, well, forgive me for that. But as you can see, I also did some coffee staining, which I really wanted to do in August, and I just never sort of worked up the momentum to actually do it. It did bleed through a little bit here, as you can see, and it bothered me a lot when it happened, but now I'm pretty fine with it, because if there's one profession in the world where you're gonna get coffee stains all over the place, it is working in the White House. By the way, as a note, just to have it out of the way, we're not at all gonna talk about the current administration in the United States and that entire garbage fire. We're just gonna leave that on the shelf because it's a mess, and I don't want to get into it, because then this video would just be me screaming and it wouldn't be a good time for anybody. Moving on, the setup that you just saw was my mood tracker / sentence a day log. Very, very simple, just as you saw, just like President's Daily Log at the top. The way that I'm going to put it together is sort of going to look like the president's schedule, or what a president's schedule could look like, which is a little difficult to describe, but just go with me. And this spread that I'm working on right now is the memory keeping for my almost toddler. Just a couple more months and they will be legitimately a toddler. It is terrifying. What I sort of went with here is setting it up with boxes to paste photographs in at the end of the month, and in the open spaces I'm going to, write about how their day was in the format of like a biography, so it's like a timeline in a biography, that type of deal. Yeah, I don't know how it'll come together. I kind of like it. I know that this and the previous spread are really, really minimal and simple, and it's mostly about how it gets filled in. Not much I can do about that, but I am sorry it's not very visually exciting. I more designed my spreads to be functional and not, look how eye-catching it is. Also, I'm just not, y'all know I can't draw. Moving on, this next couple of pages are going to be dedicated to NaNoWriMo. I mentioned in my last setup for October that I was going to be participating in NaNoWriMo, not to write a novel or whatever it is, 50,000 words. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on my television show review channel here on YouTube, and I'm going to be working towards writing 5 scripts. So on the left side of this spread is my daily word count, where I can sort of fill in on this graph the number of words that I wrote each day, and then I've got a space for the daily total, and at the bottom the monthly total. And on the right side of the page is individual script progress. Now I have more than 5 options here. I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in terms of what I had to write, because the way that my brain works, I am more comfortable with the freedom to bounce between different projects while still working to get the full word count. And I'll be completely honest, I am not very optimistic about my chances of finishing my own goal of 15,000 words or even, getting anything written. I had intended to do a lot of prep work in October, and I did some, but I wasn't able to do nearly as much as I wanted, both an inability outside of my control and then also just, life. I guess life is outside of my control as well, but there were different factors, and it meant that I did not get the prep work done that I really wanted to. So yeah, if I get anything written in November, literally anything, like 100 words, I'll be happy, quite honestly. And if I get more than that done, that would be amazing. But I'm trying really hard not to pressure myself and be stressed about it, and instead just try and use this as like momentum and encouragement, if that makes sense. And moving on, this is gonna be my first weekly setup. As usual, I'm sticking with dailies, but I like having some collaged pages ready to go to start in on my dailies. What I've got here is just a printout of a quote from The West Wing, which is "Decisions are made by those who show up." I chose this one because Election Day, as I said, is in November. It's on the first Tuesday in November, so this is probably going to be the spread that I am on when I get to Tuesday. And up at the top here, I am writing in "We the People." I'm not totally thrilled with how this came together. It is very simple, but gives me plenty of space for planning and journaling and whatever else it is that I may need on these first few days of November. I'm really looking forward to using this monthly setup. Here it is, the final flip through. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you have enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments what your November theme is, and if you are participating in NaNoWriMo, and if you have ever participated before, any tips for me would be very much appreciated. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you all later.